Have you ever noticed how overthinking can make a simple moment feel heavy? A message takes too long to reply to, and suddenly your mind starts writing stories. Did I say something wrong? Are they upset? Did I look stupid? Did I make the wrong choice? What if this goes badly? What if I fail? What if I regret everything? And before anything has even happened, you feel tired. That is the strange thing about overthinking. It can exhaust you without moving your life forward even 1 inch. Today, I want to talk about overthinking, why so many people do it, why it feels impossible to stop, and how to slowly quiet the noise in your mind without pretending life is easy. First, let's be honest about something. Overthinking is not just thinking a lot. It is not intelligence, it is not wisdom, and it is not preparation. Overthinking is when thinking stops being useful and starts becoming a trap. It feels productive because your mind is busy. It feels responsible because you are considering every possibility. It feels safe because you believe that somehow, if you think hard enough, you can protect yourself from pain, failure, embarrassment, or uncertainty. But most of the time, overthinking does not protect you. It only gives you the illusion of control. You sit there replaying conversations, imagining outcomes, analyzing every detail, trying to predict the future with perfect accuracy. But the future does not belong to the mind that worries the most. And peace does not come from rehearsing every disaster. A lot of overthinkers are not weak people, they are often sensitive people, careful people, people who have been hurt before, people who learned that mistakes can be costly, people who became used to scanning for danger, disappointment, rejection, or shame. Overthinking often begins as self protection. At some point, maybe you learned that it was safer to be extra careful, safer to read between the lines, safer to anticipate people's reactions, safer to question yourself before someone else could. So your mind adapted. It became alert, it became sharp, it became restless. And now, even when there is no real emergency, your mind still acts like there is one. That is why overthinking can feel so hard to stop. It is not always just a bad habit. Sometimes it is an old survival strategy that stayed too long. And I think that is important to understand because many people are too harsh with themselves. They say things like, "Why am I like this? Why can't I just relax? Why do I care so much? Why can't I turn my brain off?" But shame does not calm the mind, it only adds another layer of pressure. Sometimes you are not broken, you are just mentally stuck in protection mode. The problem is that protection mode is not the same as living. You cannot fully enjoy your life when every choice becomes a courtroom. You cannot feel present when your mind keeps dragging you into imagined futures. You cannot rest when every quiet moment becomes another opportunity to worry. Overthinking steals simple joys. It can turn a first date into an internal investigation. It can turn a new opportunity into 100 imagined failures. It can turn one awkward sentence into 3 sleepless nights. It can even turn good news into fear because now you are worried about losing what you finally have. That is the cruelty of it. Even beautiful things become difficult to hold when your mind is always reaching for what could go wrong. And here is another truth. Overthinking is deeply connected to the desire for certainty. We want guarantees, we want reassurance. We want to know that our decision is correct, that people understand us, that things will work out, that we will not be humiliated, disappointed, abandoned, or exposed. But life does not give that kind of certainty, and this is where overthinkers suffer the most, because they try to solve uncertainty with more thinking. But uncertainty is not a math problem, it is part of being alive. You cannot think your way into a completely risk-free life. You cannot analyze your way into perfect safety. You cannot control every outcome, every opinion, every misunderstanding, every change, or every loss. At some point, peace requires something that overthinking hates. It requires letting go, not carelessness, not laziness, not pretending nothing matters, but letting go of the fantasy that enough mental effort can control everything. That is one of the hardest lessons in life. Sometimes you do your best and still get misunderstood. Sometimes you choose carefully and still make the wrong decision. Sometimes you open your heart and still get hurt. Sometimes you prepare well and things still go differently than expected. And painful as that is, it is also freeing. Because once you accept that life cannot be perfectly controlled, you can stop demanding perfection from every thought. So, how do we actually begin to stop overthinking? Not completely, not magically, but in a real human way. The first step is learning to notice when a thought is useful and when it is just repetitive fear. Useful thinking leads somewhere. It helps you decide. It helps you reflect. It helps you understand. Overthinking repeats, it circles, it replays. It asks the same question in 20 different forms and gives you no peace at the end. That is the key difference. A useful thought says, I made a mistake, I should apologize. An overthinking thought says, I made a mistake, they probably hate me, I always ruin things, I should have said something else. Why am I so awkward? What are they thinking right now? Maybe I should send another message. Or maybe I should say nothing. Or maybe I already made it worse. One moves, the other spirals. When you notice the spiral, do not argue with it for hours. Name it. Say to yourself, this is overthinking. This is fear repeating itself. This is not clarity. That small act of naming creates distance. It reminds you that not every thought deserves full trust. The second step is to return to the body. Overthinking lives in the head. It pulls you away from the present moment. So one of the fastest ways to interrupt it is to come back to something physical and real. Take a walk. Wash your face. Breathe slowly. Stretch. Put your phone down. Notice the room. Notice the chair beneath you. Notice the sound around you. Notice your feet on the ground. This sounds simple, but simple does not mean weak. Sometimes the mind needs proof that you are here, now, and safe enough to stop running in circles. The third step is to stop treating every feeling like a problem to solve immediately. This is where many people get stuck. They feel anxious, so they start analyzing why. They feel uncertain, so they demand an answer. They feel uncomfortable, so they rush to fix it mentally. But not every feeling needs instant explanation. Sometimes feelings need space more than solutions. You can feel nervous and still move forward. You can feel unsure and still make a choice. You can feel embarrassed and still survive the moment. You can feel uncomfortable and still be okay. A lot of maturity is learning that feelings are not commands. Just because fear speaks does not mean you must obey it. The fourth step is to limit the habits that feed mental noise. Too much scrolling, too much comparison, too much checking, too much rereading, too much waiting for reassurance from other people. These habits seem small, but they train the mind to stay restless. Every time you check again, you teach your brain that it cannot rest yet. Every time you ask for reassurance but do not believe it, you strengthen the cycle. Every time you compare your inner mess to someone else's outer image, you create more confusion. Peace grows where repetition of panic is interrupted. And finally, there is one more thing. You have to become someone who can live with imperfect answers. That might be the deepest cure for overthinking. Not becoming someone who never worries, but becoming someone who can say, I may not know exactly how this will go, but I will handle it. I may not have total clarity, but I can take the next step. I may feel fear, but fear is not my master. I may not control the outcome, but I can control my honesty, my effort, and my character. That is real strength. Overthinking wants certainty before action. Growth asks for action before certainty. That is why so many people stay stuck. They are waiting to feel completely sure before they move. But complete certainty rarely comes. Most of life is built by walking while still unsure. So maybe the goal is not to become a person with a silent mind. Maybe the goal is to become a person who is no longer ruled by every loud thought. A person who can pause. A person who can breathe. A person who can notice fear without building a home inside it. A person who can trust themselves enough to move, even without perfect clarity. So the next time your mind starts racing at midnight, replaying everything, predicting disaster, trying to solve the whole future before morning, remember this. Not every thought is true, not every fear is wisdom, not every mental loop is a sign that something is wrong. Sometimes it is just your tired mind asking for safety in the only way it knows how. Be gentle with yourself, slow down, Come back to what is real. Come back to this moment. Come back to one step, not 20. Because peace is not found by winning every argument in your head. Peace begins the moment you stop believing you must. And maybe that is the real freedom. Not having a perfect mind, but having a steadier one. Not controlling every thought, but choosing which ones deserve your energy. Not eliminating uncertainty, but becoming strong enough to live through it. You do not need to solve your whole life tonight. You only need to stop letting fear pretend it is wisdom. And that, for many people, is where healing begins.